I hold here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a copy of Poured Awful by Mather Schneider. This is his latest book. This is a collection of 25 short stories, some repeating characters, a lot of standalone stories. Schneider writes in a Hemingway-esque style, but doesn't everybody. I say that because he writes in short declarative sentences. But Schneider, he also has a poet's eye, and he makes judicious use of simile and metaphor. Whew. He's got a couple of interesting examples here. He's driving his truck down the road, and there's a black snake crawling across the highway in front of the truck. It was so big it stretched all the way across the road like one of those hoses that dings at the gas station. And then here he's also describing a fare, a customer he's going to pick up in his cab. One of these repeating characters in here. The fare is waiting there on the porch with his dog. He had huge calves, the man, not the dog, bulbous and grotesque things like pregnant pink carp. And also here he has another simile, good, clever simile. He's just got done with a dentist appointment, a little all loopy from all the getting shot up. And here he's done with the appointment. I walk out backwards, still smiling, waving to everyone like a parade float clown out in the sun. And he gets into his cab, looks into the mirror. My whole mouth is bloody as a slaughterhouse floor. Gauze still in my jaw, lips swollen like an overaged boxer. And it also makes a good use of metaphor. He's got one story here where there's a person obsessed on social media with Facebook with getting likes and comments on their posts. So this guy puts up a post on his Facebook, and he sits there at his laptop or his phone just watching it. Then someone likes Jackie's original comment. There is a number 1 underneath it and a thumbs up symbol. Then there's a number 2. And soon after a number 3. Then it is like popcorn pushing up the lid of the like pan. One of the repeating characters in here is Matt Glassford. He's a perpetual job seeker and drunk, all-around dope. Not just problem with jobs, he can't manage his personal relationships either. One Sunday, he's supposed to take his girlfriend up to Mount Lemmon to see the snow. You live in the desert, what do? When it turns November and the first snow hits, you look at the mountain peaks and you drive up there to go look at the snow. Matt doesn't want to do that. Got drunk instead. And here's why he doesn't want to do it. Because when you get there, what are you going to do? At most, we'd take a picture of it, and in the picture, it would not seem cold and wet like it really is. A picture might say 1,000 words, but most of them are lies. Who writes short story collections? These things are mostly by academics and scholars. Short stories are the grist of the MFA workshop mill. About all workshopping is good for is installing fear into writers. You sit around in a circle, pass your stories around, and people go after it tooth and fang. So what happens is that they lack boldness, they lack humor. And Schneider here does not lack humor. In fact, you look on the back of the book, he does not have a college degree and works as an exterminator. So he hasn't been to college. That's why he doesn't have the problems that they have. One thing that he does lack that the MFA dudes have in their stories is bawling over climate change, Donald Trump, late-stage capitalism, student loans. That's why you see all these short story collections coming out, all this boring, lack of humor stuff. In the story here, he's got the one called A Few Things. This guy, Matt, has got another job. This time he's picking up trash in a public park. He's working with a couple of imbeciles. Now, one of the imbeciles' name is Roger. This is something you'll never see come out from one of these scholarly or academic MFA workshop short story collections. Roger was obsessed with farts. Sometimes we'd see him walking by himself and suddenly stop, bend over, and start to pound his knees in laughter. Then he'd straighten up and continue walking, chuckling and wiping the tears from his eyes. If you asked him what was so funny, it usually turned out he had remembered hearing somebody fart once somewhere. He claimed to have never once farted in his whole life. He thought the whole idea of farts was ridiculous, absolute insanity. When anyone farted within earshot of him, he would go nuts with cackles. It was infectious. Sometimes it made you almost want to go to work. The idea was to save up your farts and only let them go in Roger's presence. A fart without Roger around was a wasted fart. Back in 2020, this guy, author Mather Schneider, he released a memoir called 6 to 6. And so in the memoir, he details his time as a cab driver. And in his stories, cabs and cab drivers often appear. And in this short story collection, he envisions in the future driverless cabs. You ever wonder what those things are going to look like? Or how they're going to work? Here was his idea of it. Here's the customer waiting on the cab. He was standing outside his apartment with a suitcase when the cab pulled up. It was fully electric and made no more noise than a sewing machine. After it stopped, the passenger door clicked open and the trunk popped up. A female voice came from the cab, not sultry at all. Taxi 650 has arrived for Gerald Unland, the third. Please stow luggage in the trunk and board. Jesus Christ, he said. He put a suitcase in the back and started to close the trunk. A loud alarm went off and he heard the voice again. Do not touch the trunk door, please. Do not touch the trunk door. He jumped away from the car and the trunk door closed very slowly on its own. He walked to the open back door and got in. The door closed. Please fasten seatbelt. He fastened the seatbelt. Destination, Glassford Airport, 116 South 22nd Avenue. Please confirm. Yeah, that's right, baby. I'm out of here. Destination, Glassford Airport, 116 South 22nd Avenue. Please confirm. Confirmed. Destination confirmed. Please enjoy your ride. Schneider pokes fun at the sensitive poets and artists with their cancel culture, their insularity, and all like this. But that doesn't mean he spares the drunken slobs. Like some drunken slob living in his mom's basement, hooked on podcast. He's got a story in here called Confessions of a Joe Rogan Fanboy. And, if you read his memoir, you start to suspect we've got some auto-fiction going on here. You wonder, was this author, Mather Schneider, does he get hooked on Joe Rogan? I stopped watering the plants. I stopped making love with my wife. Then I stopped bathing and doing basic grooming. One time I was driving, listening to Joe Rogan and drinking beer, and I got pulled over and got a DUI. They took me in and held me for a few hours until they let me call my wife to come pick me up. I cried all the way home, cursing Joe Rogan. I had to pay $3,000 in fines, lost my driver's license for a year, and had to undergo therapy. The therapist kept concentrating on my drinking. She would not listen to me about the dangers of Joe Rogan. In fact, she had never even heard of Joe Rogan. I was not supposed to drink, and I had to piss in a cup every week when I went to see the therapist. One day I pissed dirty. Back to the judge. He was not a kind judge. He said I was incorrigible. I tried to tell him it was because of Joe Rogan, but he just said, son, you're going to jail. Who says you can't judge a book by its cover? Look here. This poor slob, red-eyed, drunken slob on the couch with a glass of wine. Looks like he just got up. All right, let's check out Port Awful.